There he is. I can see him. He's in the waiting room. Yeah, pull him on. Might as well pull him on. Well, look at that. He looks relaxed. He's smiling.
Getting ready to go to a birthday party.
Kevin's working the buttons, Darren. I think he's got it. Yep. There he got it, because I can hear him.
How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I know I looked a little shadow. I don't have the best lighting in here, and we can't open up the blinds behind Kevin because it might create some better light. Oh, there we go. Now you can no, not really. You can kind of see me, Kevin. It created a more of a blue tint. But Darren, I don't know if you can see this hat I'm wearing. You're on Facebook Live right now.
Okay.
We're on a break here. I just kind of gave a tease to you being on the radio talking about not only the Donald Jr. Trump Jr. event, but also your current race and what you're up against. But I always lead off this time of the year because it is the most wonderful time of the year. It's harvest season, and I have my John Deere hat on, even though it's not a green John Deere hat. It is
that's all right.
It's a gray John Deere hat because it matches my gray shirt. I'm color coordinated tonight.
Not a style.
So you got it looks a little sunny down there where you're at, Darren.
Oh, it's a beautiful day here. So yeah, I get a couple of times of the day, mid morning and the early afternoon when the sun rays just pierce my office here. So it's makes for sometimes a tough video, but it feels good in here.
Well, so big birthday for granddaughter today.
Yes, Veda Rose turns 10 and got her a set of rollerblades and Grandma Honey fixed the gray stuff from the Beauty and the Beast for everybody has a color code to bring over to the birthday party. So for some reason, I don't know why, but gray was given to us. So
hey, real quick, I know for our audience on social media right now, the event the other night you were able to attend, Dinesh D'Souza's.
Yes.
And he has a new documentary out.
Yes.
With he collaborated with Dan Bongino on, called Police State.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a scary topic. I know that. It looks like we are going to be coming live 10 seconds. So we're going to get prepared for that. Well, you cut that short a little bit, Kevin. Man alive. I don't know. It's a short segment, but I kind of like to hear the bump music, especially since, it kind of sets the stage for the day. Hey, sorry about that. I was giving Kevin a hard time right here on the air. David Paul Blumenshine, the DPB show, Sundays from 1 to 3, Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington, Normal, and beyond, because we can be found now on Twitter, Rumble, YouTube, and Facebook Live. In fact, if you're on Facebook Live right now, you can see I'm in a split screen, and it's just not me, the DPB here. It's another DB. It's Darren Bailey. Darren Bailey, I was giving you kind of a bump, and I'm glad that you came on a little early today, because there's so much to talk about, and I know that this is a short segment, but just to get some of your initial thoughts on the situation in D.C. right now with the continuing resolution and the fact that, the Freedom Caucus in Washington said, Speaker McCarthy, we're willing to give you the gavel. However, we're going to address the issues that truly impact and affect Americans, mostly the way that we spend the people's money. So the Freedom Caucus has some demands, some line items, and it seems like the speaker is going to try to ignore it. And one of the members of the Freedom Caucus, Congressman Matt Gaetz, says, you know what? This is it. We're just going down the same road with the same playbook, and we're really not representing the people who we've been put here to represent. How do you kind of view this thing with Gaetz, and now they want to expel him and everything else just because he dared to question their authority?
So basically, the Freedom Caucus needs help. They need more numbers. And David, when Cindy and I, felt our heart being tugged towards government again in March and April. I think I've said this before. I had two choices: fight for my Senate seat back in Illinois, or check out the congressional situation. We got on a Conservative Review and looked up the record of my opponent, my congressman, and I was appalled, absolutely appalled. He has voted with the establishment. Everybody knows who Adam Kinzinger and Rodney Davis are. His voting record matches theirs to a T. Mary Miller comes along, joins the Freedom Caucus, and he got a little bit better. This year, I announced my primary. He's voting 100%, my opponent 100% with him. This is what these guys do. They're chameleons, and they need called out. This is nonsense. They're not standing up for the people. This is government as usual. As a matter of fact, my opponent on Tuesday spoke out against the Freedom Caucus, and he specifically said their constituents should turn on them. I hope they do. That was what he said, and his quote was tweeted later that day. These people have been in office forever, and government is not serving us well. From the current speaker, look at the state out there. It's a disaster. To our congressman who has been in a state representative since 1994 here in Illinois, our state governments are failing, falling apart. Democrats are taking control because Republicans refuse to stand on our values, refuse to stand on our platform, and they cave. They cave so that lobbyists and bureaucrats can fill their coffers, whether they're in Springfield, Chicago, or DC. That's what's going on. That's not working for us, and that must stop. And I truly believe that the people here in the 12th Congressional District are understanding that more so, because people are frustrated, David Paul. I love the way you direct your news, because you give some hope, but man, to turn on any news network, you're just inundated with trouble, and people are struggling. They're fighting hard out there to earn a dollar to feed their family, and they don't need to go home in the evening or turn their radio on when they're driving down the freeway and listen to all this. So they turn it off. And when we turn it off, we lose track of what's taking place in government, and then we begin to wonder, why is all this increased spending? Why are veterans sleeping on the streets? Why are we not protecting our border? Why do our elderly have to worry if they're going to get their Social Security check? And it's because politicians have weaved their way into positions of favor, political influence, and that must stop.
We always get it straight from Darren Bailey. Darren, we're up against the bottom of the hour break, and I'm glad that we had this time for you to give a kind of a little run about what's going to happen after the bottom of the hour, because I want to tell you about a piece of mail that came to our house yesterday. The lady is deceased, and it was addressed from Barack Obama, and he is out there campaigning on behalf of Joe Biden and soliciting funds. And it gets back to your point. Why is it that people it's not bad enough yet? They're not awake to what's happening. It's because these people continue to lie to them and promise them something that they cannot deliver on. But we're going to cover that and so many other things. I want Darren to tell us about this great event coming up October 27th in Effingham with Donald Trump Jr., where you can get a free copy of President Trump's book, Memoirs of President Donald J. Trump. But you can do that. We're going to talk about so many other things when we come back here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. Okay, we're back live on Facebook. We appreciate everyone that's tuning in, joining us, and catching us. Darren, once again, thank you as always. It's easy to basically present this information to the public when you're not lying. I mean, we don't have to lie about what's happening. I love it when politicians, and I found that out in my own race for state representative here locally. I sat in a forum conducted by the League of Women Voters with someone that you served with, Dan Brady, who's no longer in the House. He ran for Secretary of State as you were running for governor. And Dan sat there in this forum and looked at the people and told them that the balance or the budget in Illinois was balanced for the third time or fourth time.
Oh,
and I said, that is just not true. I said, Representative, in all due respect, I have the Auditor General's report from Frank Mantino. Did I say his name right, Darren?
Yeah, close enough.
Montino.
Montino,
Yeah,
I think so it is.
Montino. And I said, I have the Auditor General's report, and it doesn't take you very long to flip pages to find out he said that there's inadequate reporting from the agencies in the state of Illinois. Therefore, he can't really make head nor tails of where we're at as far as the budget. And I think that's the way it is out in D.C. too. I mean, Illinois is just a microcosm of what is happening in D.C. I mean, there are other states in the union that are doing it much better than Illinois, but we know that the federal government is just bankrupt morally and financially.
Well, they bankrupted us. I mean, that's what this is. What people are struggling: the gas, the energy, the food bills. I mean, it's nuts. And back to the Illinois budget. I mean, even if, and it has not been this way for the last 30 years, even if the numbers actually jived, even if there was as much money coming in as they wanted to spend, there has always been a $4 billion shortfall to the pensions. And I cannot get through that through our state workers. That's going to come to a screeching halt someday, because you just can't continue, as you were saying before, spending more than we make. But our budget has indeed been $1.5 to $3 billion out of whack since day one. It always is, and for the very reason that you alluded to.
Well, and we don't truly know exactly how much that is, because everyone wire points has a different Illinois policy, has a different view of it. Andrew Andrzejewski of Open the Books has a different opinion. I mean, I don't know if we truly have an accounting, because it's so hard to figure it out, because as the Auditor General says, he doesn't get the accurate reporting. In fact, there's a representative candidate, and I think he was down at the Dinesh D'Souza event, and I know we're still good with time, right, Kevin? About 20 seconds. But I really want to talk about this when we come back on air. I happened to run into him during our campaign for governor, Kelvin, who's running in the 95th state rep district. He worked for the state of Illinois, and he worked in the business of auditing. And he said, it's ridiculous. Here we go. We're going to go live again. The harvest is plenty and the laborers are few. Come with me into the fields. Wow, what a beautiful fall day it is out there. In fact, it's almost reminiscent of summer, trying to hang on. But don't worry, I've seen the extended forecast, and fall is going to be upon us next week. It's going to drop down almost 20 degrees through most of Illinois. So be prepared. Fall is here. The harvest is here. I just love the excitement of a harvest season. So many great things happening, whether it's Friday night lights and football, but the harvest festivals that go on. Really, I'm kind of a guy that likes to go out into the country and watch them combine corn, or to bring in the beans. It's exciting stuff. If you've never seen that, by all means, go out and enjoy, because it truly is refreshing to see that good old-fashioned work is still something that sets us apart as a country from a lot of others. A lot of countries depend upon us for their existence. We are still the breadbasket of the world here in America. So thankful to God for that. And with me is a veteran farmer, a grandfather, father, husband, candidate for state rep. He actually held a seat as a state representative, state senate for 2 years. And then he ran for governor because he was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And he had already sued the government or sued the governor for his unconstitutional lockdowns of the state and restricting the growth of small business here in Illinois. That's Darren Bailey. Darren, we always appreciate you joining us here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington, Normal, and beyond. Over break, or during the break, we were talking about a couple different topics, but one in particular is obviously this ongoing problem that we face federally in the state of Illinois and in a lot of counties. You know, the taxpayers can't take on any more liability. We are pushed to the limit. I mean, we can't afford the groceries, we can't afford the gas, we can't hardly afford to get our kids the what is needed. And that's a responsibility as a parent, as a grandparent, is to take care of our families. And people are struggling to do that. And you're on a mission to change the way that we do government.
Yeah, it's so sometimes sometimes I've got to kind of slow down and think about this a minute. Let's back up just a minute. Let's think about what is the number one role of government. The number one role of government from the beginning was to protect the people. How are we protecting our people when we continue to burden on them excess taxes and excess spending? At the very minimum, wouldn't you think that we'd be protecting our borders? And all of a sudden now, even our woke cities are crying help because there's a crisis with immigration. So we ask ourselves what the number one role of government is. And then let's ask ourselves again, what's the number one most important thing that needs to be accomplished every year? A budget, just like you and I live on. At the end of every year, my farm, based on we're having a little bit of a shortfall on our yields down here in Southern Illinois. We didn't get the rain that we needed. So we immediately start now. I don't wait till, 2 weeks before planting to figure a budget out. I start planning now, what I'm going to need to do for next year. So isn't it interesting that in the state of Illinois, when government comes into session in January, and we know that session gets out in June, they always wait till May to start talking about the budget. And isn't it interesting that, right now, we've had all year long, we've had since February, January, for our federal government, our lawmakers in DC to start coming together for a budget. And we have to be embarrassed as a nation with these continuing resolutions. I mean, it is a shame, and it is a sham that they can't come together and figure this spending out. How about some spending cuts? But what they're arguing about, they're not arguing about where they should be cutting at right now. They're arguing about who should be getting what. And it doesn't work. Here in Illinois, a lot of people, I learned this, the governor, that budget to the governor, it's like the crane game, with the little stuffed animals in there. The governor gets to reach in there every now and then and pull out whatever he wants to pull out and put it wherever he wants to put it. And we ask ourselves every year, as a budget is you and I, if we know we're going to spend so much on fuel and so much on food, we pretty well got to leave that in there. But unfortunately, in state government, our schools fall prey to this a lot. Our schools don't get the money that was promised to them because, the governor will reach in and pull and push the money somewhere else. And many times when people see our representatives and our governor going around the state, putting these press releases out for these wonderful projects that are going to happen. Here's $2 million for this particular, maybe a mental health facility or maybe to the VA. I urge people to pay attention to those promises because less than 10% of them actually end up getting funded. They go out with these grand ideas, but then something else comes up, another priority, another idea, another favor that needs to be pulled, and they push the money somewhere else. This nonsense needs to stop.
Well, Darren, you know that my wife is a school teacher now, starting her 35th year with the local school district here in the Bloomington Normal area. And she actually had this question this morning. You've had so many different avenues and for creating revenues for the school system, whether that would be the lottery, whether that would be the marijuana sales. She was saying a recent one, and I kind of draw a blank on it. But there's all these programs that are supposed to fund education, and at the end of the day, they never, like you just said, 10% maybe. So I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that because it's the irony is Tanya was just talking about that this morning, that here we in Illinois, we keep hearing them speak of all these wonderful programs that are going to raise additional monies for our children, for the public school system or the government school system. And yet they never come to fruition. They basically lie.
You can't track this money. I tried for 4 years. We stood up on the floor in both the House and the Senate and said, I just want a single a website or put it on paper. We know how much We know that whether it's the lottery, the gambling, whatever, whether it's the recreational marijuana, even the gas tax, we know supposedly how much gas we sold, so how much gas is collected. You cannot track this money once it enters into the IRS. You can't. It just dissipates. There is absolutely no way to track any of this stuff, and that's another a sham of the government.
Yeah, it's a definite Ponzi scheme. Yeah, well, I like to say that it's a shell game because ultimately you're constantly guessing. They say that the gas tax goes to fix infrastructure, but we already know that when interest is accruing at the rate that interest accrues on the debt that we have, yes, governments can go in debt with your money. You're supposed to be represented by, whether it's your state rep or your state senator. He's supposed to be in there fighting for your tax dollars, what you've given to the government to take care of the much needed programs, whether that's public education, the state police, our road systems, our bridges. But yet it just is wasted. And it's not only on the state level, right now at the federal level. I mean, the gross abuses, especially, I met a young lady at church this morning. She's from the Ukraine. She tells you about the missile strikes. I feel my heart goes out to the people of Ukraine because they're pawns in a political game. None of the money that we are really sending over to Ukraine goes to the people of Ukraine or to the armies. It's all rifled through by the oligarchs and anybody that is in power, and they kind of pick and choose. And yet they continue this unending war because right now there's no end in sight for the war. Unless here in, about 14 months, we elect a new president who has committed himself to saying he will stop the war in 24 hours.
No, that's awesome. And that's how we deal with this. We don't continue to send blank checks. When the invasion took place, we were all on board. Ukraine needs help. But here we are. So far later, so many trillions of dollars in debt, so many lives lost. It's time for the leader of the free nation, the greatest nation on the face of this earth, to intervene, to step in and to do something. And instead, again, the answer is your pockets. And that's so wrong.
I was kind of struggling to think because sometimes there's so much that comes at us. Here's what my wife shared with me: exploiting the children. She actually happened to chat in the chat room here, Darren, on Facebook Live, so I can read it. As she says, exploiting the children, just like the postcard we received from Obama yesterday. If you care about the future of the children, vote for gambling, cigarette tax, gambling machines, or in the case of postcard, vote for Biden.
Wow.
Because obviously that will fix everything.
We're in trouble. That's just all there is to it. People, again, I've quoted this many times. I think I've quoted it every time I've been on your show. But when Thomas Jefferson, during his presidency, he said, when Americans figure out they can vote themselves entitlements, democracy will fail. And look at the situation right now. You talked about it earlier about the harvesters ready and the laborers are few. The laborers are few. We need truck drivers. We need help on the farm. Every business I go to, I ask them how they're doing on labor, and they're not good. And they're trying to figure out ways to either downsize or get more efficient. And, you go into your Walmart or McDonald's, you've already got that, personless kiosk you have to deal with. That's not what built this country. That's not what's going to move this country forward. That's not what's going to sustain this country. People going to work, being happy with their work, making money, building something with their lives. That's what this free nation, this constitutional republic must have. That's what it was built on. And when we lose that, which we are, then we're going to go the way of any other society has. And we have got textbooks full of stories right now today. We've got a country 90 miles off of our coast that we can see exactly how this is working. And God help us. I do not know what the plan is or the desire to send us in that direction is.
Well, I know the plan for Darren Bailey. He is running for Congress in the 12th congressional district, and he needs you. He needs your support. You don't, just because you're not in his district, he's got a big event coming up. he's taking on the establishment. He's taking on Kevin McCarthy and the ilk of the elites in the establishment of Washington, D.C. So you can help Darren by going out to his website. Darren, go ahead and give that.
Absolutely. And yes, you know, I will be speaking for all of Illinois. You know that I will be preparing for the future for someone to be able to run for governor in 2030, 2034 to get this state back under control. I will be your voice in DC, and you know that. And I will tell you that this fundraiser and others have been blocked. The establishment in DC is trying to block them every which way they can. So we're dealing with that. But anyway, on October 27th, Donald Trump Jr. is coming to Effingham. You can go to my website's the same as it's always been, baileyforillinois.com, all spelled out. Get on there. The first thing that's going to pop up is this event. Click on it. And when you look at those ticket prices, just realize one thing. Every ticket, and there's every couple ticket, you get 2 books. It's Letters to Trump. Look that up. It even sells for $99 on Amazon. It's a $100 book value. Every ticket will receive one of these books, and you'll even have the opportunity for $500 a couple to get your picture taken with Donald Trump Jr., to have your book autographed. And then for those of you that so wish, for $3,300 a person, you'll have 30 minutes with a small group of people at a round table with Donald Trump Jr., hearing some of the daily insights of what's going on with his dad and President Trump and the future. So it's all of our David, Paul, I think you've been to every one of them, but all of our events are fun. They're energetic and
uplifting.
And uplifting.
It's like going to church. It's almost a revival. Let's restore not only Illinois, but let's restore humanity and this country. Darren, you've got a birthday party because family obviously trumps politics every day. Go and enjoy Veda Rose's birthday party and the gray stuff and everything else. We will have you back on because we want to make sure that we get as many people that want to attend that event as possible. Darren Bailey, my friend, obviously somebody that is out there working on behalf of the people. The people's candidate, Darren Bailey. Thank you, Darren. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
God bless you. Thank you.
And we're going to be back right here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal after break.